Of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, to be held September 7th, 2021 at 6 p.m. And if we could have our Deputy Clerk please take the roll.
Councilmember Wilden.
Here.
Councilmember Nairn.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hulse.
Here.
Mayor Linsky.
Here.
And Councilmembers Kurat, Matthews, and Henry are all absent.
All right, very good. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next up is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Do we have any council? Please go ahead.
Briefly, I was one of three that attended the Arizona League of Cities and Towns in Phoenix. Unfortunately, we had to stay at the Biltmore. And I'm going to do a brief summary and send it out to all the council members so you can get a brief idea what they mostly really delegated most of the information to the larger cities. But we did get some things out of it for sure.
Good, great. Any other council members?
Well, I'll just jump in and say that I attended the Arizona Housing Forum rather than the league conference because they had a tax credit track where they were bringing in developers and the Department of Housing to talk about how the tax credits work and how to attract developers who want to do tax credit housing to our community. Mm-hmm. So I'll be sharing that information with Ryan, who will help me to share it with the new housing manager.
Awesome, great. Any other council members? Yes, sir.
Yeah. I attended the ribbon cutting for Blazing M branch. Thank you. I was trying to figure out the date it was. And we had all but one of the council members present for the ribbon cutting. And most of us were able to stay and enjoy a very tasty meal as well as some very high quality entertainment. It was a nice, enjoyable evening.
Thank you for doing that, and I'm so glad we're back with Blazing M. It's good to have them back in our community. So, I did not attend the league. There was a great Arizona Mayor's Association meeting down there in my absence. Mr. Corbin attended that on my behalf, and they bestowed unto me the privilege of being the new chair of that organization. It serves me right for not being able to attend. I was there by phone, but they still took advantage. And so anyway, I'm the new chair. I'll keep everyone apprised of the goings-on of the Greater Arizona Mayor's Association. It's a great organization made up of mayors across many counties in Arizona, mostly in northern Arizona, but we do have quite a bit of clout. We think we do. I believe we do. I guess it depends on who you ask, but with the legislators. So some of the things we've taken up in the past have been predominantly short-term rental housing issues, that sort of thing. So we'll continue the good fight on your behalf. So
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. I think so. Yeah, thank you. All right, Mr. Corbin.
I think that you get the congratulations and Sandra gets the work, if the way I understand that appointment correctly.
Yeah.
But yes, I wanted to add that we did stay at the Biltmore, but just so the taxpayers aren't shaking their heads, the rates that they get are lower than most any hotel in Phoenix this time of year. So while it was a nice hotel, the rates the taxpayers end up supporting for this conference is significantly low, comparatively speaking. And then we do have a couple announcements. The City of Cottonwood is hosting a blood drive on September 14th from 10 to 3 p.m. at the Public Safety Multi-Purpose Room located at 199 South 6th Street. Appointments can be scheduled by calling 1-800-733-276. Oh, they did it again. We'll get you the correct number. I've got to start reading these ahead of time. We still are one number shy there, so your guess, 276 something. Or by visiting redcrossblood.org using sponsor code CottonwoodAZ and also through the blood donor app. Or if you're like me, you get the phone call. Cottonwood Fire Department invites you to participate in the 9/11 Remembrance Walk alongside our public safety team. This walk is to honor the 412 public safety personnel that sacrificed their lives on that day. The walk lasts until all names have been honored. The walk will take place at the Cottonwood Community School outdoor track from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. At 7:05 a.m., we will have speakers and a moment of silence. Please visit cottonwoodfire.org to register. Council members, if you plan on attending, please let Sandra or myself know and we'll sign you up. It goes until late that morning, but they have lots of spots, and the idea is for each of those 512 public safety personnel, we'll do one lap. And so last I heard, there were lots of opportunities for more volunteers to come out and help us get those laps in. So thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
All right, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action, and comments are limited to a 3-minute time period. So if there's anyone out there that would like to address the council, we have yellow forms in the back. You're more than welcome to fill one out, and we'll invite you up to speak to us. And first up this evening is Miss Donna O'Daniel, and I understand we're going to help you get a mic to your chair there so that we can understand you. If we can pull that down, that'd be great.
How's that?
Thank you, very nice.
Appreciate that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to pick you up on the recording, so appreciate your flexibility there.
Is this recorded for the public to view later on?
Correct. Yep.
Mayor Alinsky and city councilors, my name is Donna O'Daniel, and I live in Cottonwood, Arizona. There are many reasons why people should not wear face masks. Number one, scientific studies show that used masks harbor pathogens. Number two, that they increase carbon dioxide levels in the body. And number three, that they are totally ineffective to guard against COVID. Item number one, an article appeared in 2021 titled, University of Florida Lab Finds Dangerous Pathogens on Children's Face Masks. 5 masks that were worn by children ages 6 to 11 and 1 worn by an adult were analyzed and showed 11 dangerous pathogens, including bacteria that cause diphtheria, pneumonia, and meningitis. Number 2, research published in JAMA Pediatrics discovered that dangerously high mask-induced carbon dioxide levels were found in children. Item 3, a May 2020 meta-study published by the U.S. CDC found that face masks had no effect as personal protective equipment, but the CDC now says that kids should continue to wear masks. Also, Dr. Dennis Rancourt's report titled, Masks Don't Work, a review of science relevant to COVID-19 social policy, cited over 25 peer-reviewed articles claiming that masks do not work. It was censored. His response, quote, "This is censorship of my scientific work like I have never experienced before." So why the censorship and policies to wear masks, which clearly defy the science and health authorities' own data? The communist head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, admitted to the BBC that its mask policy was not due to new evidence, but to, quote, political lobbying. Dr. Anthony Fauci's NIAID gave $7.4 million to fund the Wuhan Institute of Virology in communist China, the apparent source of the coronavirus. Do you smell a rat rather than a bat? I do, and so should you. To these tyrants, science and truth do not matter. The entire mask-wearing agenda is designed by them, not to keep us safe from COVID, but to divide us and destroy our freedoms. You took an oath to support and defend the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees our God-given right to wear a mask or not. Please always protect that right. Remember, you were elected to office to represent us, and you can be replaced. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Daniel. Up next, Mr. Barry Jones.
Honorable Mayor Alinsky and City Councilors, I want to address the serious erosion of liberty, which many in our country seem to applaud, while many more seem indifferent or insensible to. Many of us are alarmed, however, that people do not connect the dots between such things as lockdowns, so-called vaccine passports, and travel restrictions, and what can only be seen as looming tyranny. Whatever one's view of the COVID emergency and the mRNA vaccines, we have not had enough time to have settled science on either the actual deadliness of the virus or the prevalence of death and serious side effects from the vaccines. While almost all of us are limited to opinion on these subjects, based on varying degrees of research that we can do, it isn't opinion that the narrative of the pandemic has had disastrous consequences on the economic and psychological health of our nation. Very telling about the pandemic narrative are the statistics which have been released by the CDC and the NIH. Deaths from COVID, depending on different markers, number many more than past vaccines which were pulled immediately from production and dissemination, according to the CDC. Why the difference? Another anomaly about the COVID vaccines are the wildly variant efficacy statistics. Why does Israel, the most vaccinated nation in the world, report reinfection rates and hospitalization rates as high as 39+% for vaccinated individuals? It is impossible not to conclude that political considerations figure prominently in at least some of the reports in the legacy media. The Bill of Rights, which this city has resolved to defend in all its particulars, is very clear about liberties, which no government may infringe, as those rights come not from government, but from God the Creator. It is my view that we will witness the disintegration of our republic and the advent of tyranny in our nation unless we as a people repent and humbly ask for divine assistance to return to our founding principles and to a commitment to reasonable dialogue in our civil discourse. I call on this council and each councilor to recognize the seriousness of our nation's peril on this, the local level, and to publish a proclamation calling on all of us to implore the God of heaven to have mercy on our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here this evening that would like to address the council? No. All right, we'll move on then to approval of the minutes of the work session of August 10, 2021, regular meetings of August 17, 2021, and special meeting of August 25th, 2021.
I move to approve the minutes of the August 10, 2021 regular meeting, the August 17, 2021, and the special meeting of August 25, 2021.
Second.
All right, Vice Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Nairn seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. We go then into the consent agenda, and we have several items tonight, 11 in fact. So I'll read them each, and if there's anyone in the public that would like to have an item pooled, please indicate so. Or if there's any council member, of course, please indicate so, and we'll pool the items. And these following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council, and they'll be approved by one motion. First up is liquor license application number 7, beer and wine, submitted by Camila Alarcon, agent for Pine Shadows Clubhouse located at 2050 West State Route 89A. Item 2 is special event liquor license application submitted by Rudy Rodriguez, applicant for the city of Cottonwood for the Walking on Maine event scheduled for November 13th, 2021 in Old Town. Item 3 is special event liquor license application submitted by Rudy Rodriguez, applicant for the city of Cottonwood for the Thunder Valley Rally for an alternate location at the Cottonwood Kids Park located at 398 South 12th Street on September 17th and 18th, 2021. Item 4 is increase to the purchase order amount for engineering and design services for the Highway 260 well site project. Item 5 is continuation of funding for the water conservation education programs for K through 8. Item 6, release of remaining assurances for the Gateway Greens Development Project in Old Town. Item 7, purchase of a used backhoe for the Public Works Department. Item 8, award of bid and approval of contract with Pavex Corp. for the automated weather observing system replacement project at the Cottonwood Airport and acceptance of grant funds from ADOT in support of the project. Item 9, purchase of a new backup electrical generator for the public safety building. Item 10, resolution number 3109, approving an intergovernmental agreement with Yavapai County for E-rate technical assistance services. And item 11, acceptance of a Library Services and Technology Act subgrant for the Cottonwood Public Library for Wi-Fi hotspot lending. Is there any item that a member of the public would like to have pulled? Council? Okay. I'll go ahead and move then to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Wilden seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it is approved. And let's have our deputy clerk please read resolution number 3109 by title only.
Resolution number 3109, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, approving an agreement with Yavapai County for E-rate services for the Cottonwood Public Library. Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Okay, new business. The following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. First up is Ordinance 706, rezoning approximately 11 square miles of land located in the northeast portion of the city of Cottonwood, generally west of the intersection of State Route 89A and Page Springs Road, from RCU 2A, residential single-family rural, to NF, National Forest, and AR 87, agricultural residential 2-acre minimum lot size. First reading.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Gary Davis with Community Development. This is a rezoning of the annexation area that the city annexed back in January. This is the first reading of Ordinance 706 that would change the zoning on that. The subject area is about 11 square miles total, and that is, as you may recall, zoned RCU 2A, which the city extended the original county zoning, 2-acre minimum lot size rural residential zoning. About 282 acres of that, which is south of Highway 89A, is private land. That would be rezoned to AR 87. That's the city's new 2-acre zone that is comparable to the RCU 2A. The remainder of that land is all National Forest land, and that would be rezoned to NF, which is our National Forest zone, which is even more restrictive than the RCU 2A and the AR 87, because it limits uses only to those uses that are permitted specifically by the Forest Service. Mm-hmm. So cities must zone annexed areas that are consistent with the county zoning. That's what we did. We actually annexed and adopted RCU 2A zoning because the cities may extend the county's original zoning for up to 6 months. We did not have our own 2-acre zoning that was exactly comparable to the RCU 2A. We put that in place a few months later, and now we're coming back to use that AR 87 zone in the private portion of this property, which is the Spring Creek Ranch area, and the rest of it being National Forest. This went to the Planning and Zoning Commission for public hearing on August 16th, and they recommended approval. That's all I have. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Council, do we have any questions for Mr. Davis? No?
Mr. Mayor, in full transparency, I just want to make sure, we did receive one letter.
Yes, we did, and that was read into the record at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Right.
They were, I don't have it in front of me, but you can. It's in the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. They, I believe, were kind of confusing it with a proposal later on to rezone the AR 87 private area, the Spring Creek Ranch. That's not being considered right now. Obviously, this is just the finish up to the annexation area zoning.
Sure, and once that development, there's something to see that will come forward in a public process, and there'll be notice sent out, and
that's correct.
More
It'll
opportunity
go to Planning and Zoning Commission. That would require a general plan amendment as well as a rezone, so it'll be quite a process.
Okay.
So just to make sure that all members of the public understand what we're saying and what we're voting on, is the AR 87 is no different than the county zoning was. And so they cannot come in and do anything different without coming back for another rezone.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, well, do we have any folks in the audience tonight that would care to address the public on this, or the council on this item? No. All right, is there any other discussion from council? No? Okay, well, then we'll bring this back for a vote in a couple weeks, I believe. All right, thank you, sir. Deputy Clerk, please read ordinance number 706 by title only.
Ordinance number 706, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the zoning map of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona for an area of land on the northeast side of the city known as the Spring Creek Ranch annexation area to change certain district boundaries and classifications thereof from the present Yavapai County zoning designation of RCU-2A residential single-family rural to the city zoning designation of NF National Forest for the national forest lands within the annexation area, and AR 87 agricultural residential 2-acre minimum lot size for the private lands within such area. Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, up next, ordinance number 707, amending the zoning ordinance by amending section 418, C1 zone, light commercial. Again, first reading.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This is a zoning ordinance amendment that staff put together to address a number of issues that we've seen over the years come up in relation to the C1 zone, which is our light commercial zone. And it allows both light commercial uses as well as some residential uses. One of the first issues that we're looking at here is the residential uses. Right now, any residential uses in C1 would require a conditional use permit, which means going through the public hearing process with the Planning and Zoning Commission and getting a yes or no from the commission. We're proposing to make it such that multifamily residential use would be listed as a permitted use, permitted outright, rather than requiring the conditional use permit. That would allow for more flexibility, more or less uncertainty on the part of developers coming in, knowing that right off the bat they could get multifamily zoning in there equivalent to the R3 standard, which is what is in the books now, except that it requires a conditional use permit. We would propose that residential single family be conditional use permit, because that may or may not be appropriate next to commercial businesses as apartments possibly would. So anyway, and again, the R3 standards would take effect on the residential uses in the multifamily uses there. Hotel motel. Right now, hotel motel is not listed as a permitted or conditional use in C1. Staff has over the years interpreted it as being a conditional use, so that you could come in and get a conditional use permit. We've had a few of those for small hotels. We are proposing that small kind of boutique hotel motel with 4 units or less be permitted outright in the C1 zone, and then anything more than 4 units would be a conditional use. You'd have to go through that conditional use permit process. Again, taking away some of the uncertainty for somebody coming in and wanting to put in a small boutique hotel within a C1 zone. Incidental manufacturing. We have a provision in our zoning ordinance in C1 that if you're selling products in your store, you can also manufacture those products. Have some incidental manufacturing. It's not just manufacturing them and shipping them off the site like a regular industrial use, but have something, crafts happening in the store. Right now, 100% of those products must be sold in the store. There's no provision for selling it on the internet or selling a few elsewhere. We're proposing that products may be sold on-site or off-site, and but some of them must be available on-site. In other words, they're not just shipping them off the site. And there would be no restriction on proportion of floor area. Right now, there's a 50%. You can't have more than 50% of the floor area, the retail use being manufacturing. We're just, again, kind of allowing for more flexibility with the C1 uses. Drive-in facilities and restaurants. This is another issue that isn't specifically mentioned right now in our C1 zone. Staff has interpreted it as being a conditional use because it's permitted in the C2, the heavy commercial, but not in the C1. And so we're proposing just to list drive-in facilities for restaurants to be a conditional use as it's been interpreted before. We're just putting it in the books.
Mr. Davis,
Yes?
explain to me what a drive-in facility means for a restaurant. What is that?
That would be your drive-through window,
Okay.
your ordering menu.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
So not Sonic?
That would probably fall under that definition too. Yes, that's in a C2 zone, I believe, but we don't see too many of those, but we do want to allow that use, but at the same time, make sure that it goes through a public hearing process so all the surrounding property owners, maybe people behind them may not want to hear, "Can I take your order, please?" all night long, can come and voice their concerns and have some feedback into the design process. Finally, keeping of livestock. This is something that was added to the C1 zone about a year and a half ago, and we had a text amendment since then that inadvertently omitted that from the ordinance, and so we're proposing just to add that back exactly as it was a year and a half ago. So that runs through all our proposals. Any questions?
I have one other question. What was the reasoning behind allowing by right 4 units or less in the hotel motel category?
We've seen some small units come in, some small hotel, bed and breakfast type uses, lodging type uses come in, and there's nothing magic about the number 4. It just, on a scale of, say, an old town building, anything more than 4 might be a little much. 4 and under seem kind of an appropriate C1 old town level.
Okay. But you have seen such proposals come through of smaller scale hotels?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. All right. Council, any other questions, concerns, comments? No? Okay. Well, I'm certainly glad to see that we're trying to be less restrictive to open up more for development. I think that's positive. Yeah. And I would agree with all the conditional uses in there. What triggers a conditional use permit? 'Cause I think it is important still for some proposals that would need to go in front of the neighborhood and in front of the public for comment. I think that's important. So, all right, this is, again, first reading. Is there anyone out there in the public that would want to comment on this? All right.
And one final note on it, Mr. Mayor, the proposal here was looked at in context of the new state law that took effect recently, SB 1409, saying that before adopting any zoning ordinance or zoning ordinance text amendment, the city must consider the probable impact of the text amendment on the cost to construct housing. And we looked at this with the Planning Commission, and this is something that the Commission and the staff didn't see that as having an effect on cost to construct housing, with the possible exception of making it possibly cheaper, making it easier to develop multifamily in C1, eliminating that conditional use process, which shortens the time period and shortens, again, and takes away the uncertainty.
Okay. All right, well, again, first reading, so we'll bring this back for a vote in a couple weeks.
We're good.
Thank you. All right, item 3 under new business is consideration of transfer.
Mr. Mayor?
I am so sorry. I'm going to have our deputy clerk read ordinance number 707 by title only.
Ordinance number 707, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the zoning ordinance by amending section 418C1 zone, light commercial. Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
if you'd indulge me, we, as council knows, when we have folks from out of town here for an item, we usually reorder the agenda. We didn't do that this time, but
Okay.
we do have somebody, if we could. I know there's nothing he'd rather do than spend the rest of the agenda here, but if we could maybe take that matter up.
I'm assuming item 6?
Sure.
Yep. Let's do that. Next. Item number 6, we're going to bump up in order here, and this is consideration and possible approval of proposed contract for misdemeanor prosecution, code enforcement, and related professional legal services to J. Andrew Jolly, Prescott Law Group, PLC.
Mayor, Council, thank you, first of all, for indulging that. As Council knows, we are replacing our longtime city prosecutor and code enforcement advisor and attorney. He is finally retiring. There's nothing we were able to do to coerce him to stay any longer. But we've had a really good run with him, and as Council knows, he's done a great job on both sides of the house, on the prosecution side and then helping us with our code enforcement matters. So we did issue an RFQ and posted it and distributed it as widely as we thought we could and get any response. And we did learn after the first posting that it didn't get distributed. It got in one spam box and then it didn't get received and distributed by, we didn't send it to another recipient, the local bar association. So we did extend, we reissued it, and we extended the submittal deadline. And ultimately we wound up with 3 proposals, and all 3 proposers were well qualified to be our next prosecutor. So we decided to interview all 3, and we did, and it's almost easier to name the people who weren't on the screening committee than were. But it was, and we did this jointly with Clarkdale, because Mick Jordahl, our current prosecutor, also serves as the prosecutor for Clarkdale, and we anticipated that the incumbent for us would likely get a contract with Clarkdale. So the interim Clarkdale town manager participated in the screening and the interview process. He was on the phone. Mr. Corbin, myself, Chief Gazelle, Jeff Cook, who sort of carried the water on the solicitation procurement process, Scott Ellis, Community Development Director, Kirsten, Rudy, and Kirsten's the acting HR Director. What would I do without you? Rudy, Deputy City Manager. I think there were 8. Oh, and Mick participated in the interviews as well. And after those interviews, it was clear, although we had 3 qualified proposers, one stood out for us, and that's Mr. Jolly, Andy Jolly. He's known in the community. He's practiced in our court. He's known to one of our council members who practices locally. And he actually does this kind of work, and this is doing contract prosecution is a significant portion of his practice already. So we're really thrilled to welcome him aboard and introduce him to you and you to him, and let him come up and introduce himself.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mr. Jolly.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I feel a little guilty jumping line, but I do appreciate it. I will pick my kid up from baseball practice, so makes it easier.
Understood.
If you have any questions for me, I'd happily answer them. I think Mr. Horton did a good job of explaining it. I'm I've known Mr. Jordahl for quite a while, since he came down from Flagstaff, and I look forward to stepping into his big shoes and hopefully carrying on the tradition that he has here. I know Judge Kelly well from her days on the other side of the mountain, and look forward to working with her and the staff as well. I am familiar with this side of the mountain. I actually got the announcement through the Verde Valley Bar Association, which I've been a member of for several years. And I currently have the contract for the town of Jerome and have for about 11 years now. So I am familiar with the Verde Valley, and I enjoy it. Actually, Cottonwood and the Verde Valley is more like where I grew up than Prescott and that side of the mountain, but my wife makes those decisions, not me, so we're not moving anytime soon. But I do look forward to working with you guys and being a part of this community.
Awesome. Any questions for Mr. Jolly?
Just one clarification. You are going to be also working for Clarkdale, correct?
I actually just got an email during this meeting that they're going to try and improve the contract next week at their council member, but they did offer me the contract as well. So, and just for the council's peace of mind, maybe, the way I operate, as Mr. Horton said, this has become basically all I do in my practice. So I do have several contracts, but the key to that is scheduling them out. You know, Jerome and Clarkdale are basically once a month. I have another one up in the north in Coconino County that's once a month. Cottonwood will be the most time I spend, but I have that time because I've also given up a couple other contracts. I used to have a contract with Yavapai County I gave up, and I also had a contract in Mojave County that I gave up. So I'm kind of substituting closer and better for further in Yavapai County.
Right.
I don't mean that tongue in cheek.
Right. Well, I'm pleased to know you've had a working relationship with our magistrate, and that you knew Jordahl so well. We have a really a tight ship here between our own in-house attorney, our chief Gazelle from our police department, and Jordahl, as well as Judge Kelly. They've put together some amazing programs, and I'd hate to see those suffer at all, but it sounds like you've got what it takes to keep that momentum going.
Absolutely. Mick emailed me the I believe the program you're talking about, the homeless and repeat offender one, and I really enjoyed it. I look forward to implementing that or continuing that here. I don't see any reason to change that. That seems like a great program.
Awesome. All right. Council? Okay.
I move to approve the proposed contract for misdemeanor prosecution, code enforcement, and related professional legal services with J. Andrew Jolly Prescott Law Group, PLC.
Second.
All right. Councilmember Naren made the motion. Councilmember Wilden seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Naren,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Halls,
Yes.
Mayor Linsky,
Yes.
and motion carried.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you all.
Thank
I'll
you.
Sneak out the back.
All right. Very good. Take care. Okay, we'll double back then to consideration of transferring a vacant full-time administrative assistant position from the Public Works Department to the Recreation Center and reclassifying the position to a Recreation Coordinator 2.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Kirsten Lennon, the Financial Services Director and the Interim HR Director. I don't know which role I'm playing when I'm introducing this item. It's kind of both. So tonight we're asking you to approve the transfer of a vacant full-time administrative assistant position that was at Public Works and moving it to the Rec Center for a Recreation Coordinator 2 position. They are different ranges, but the budget is there to move the funds. During COVID, several staffing positions were eliminated and other responsibilities were transferred around to different departments. And at that time, our admin assistant that was at Public Works went over to community development to help them in community development. Well, with this budget year, community development got a planning tech position, and their admin moved into the planning tech position, and the admin that was at Public Works applied for that admin position, got the position. So then we had a vacant position at Public Works. And also during that time, Public Works found that they really didn't need someone up there full-time. It wasn't needed to have someone there all the time and be doing the work. They could shift the responsibilities around and not have that person there. So with that, we have decided that the Recreation Center also has had many changes in their staffing. They started out with 10 staff back when they opened. They've had fluctuations. They've moved people around. They're now down to 7, 2 of which are 7 full-time equivalents, but 2 are part-time. combined to make one position. And they have 4 recreation coordinators that do different duties. They have like an admin position, and then they have sports and community events and aquatics. And so what they're asking is to get another recreation coordinator 2 position that they can have focus on trails and helping with the pool and helping with other items. And so at this time, we'd like you to consider moving that position from Public Works to the Parks and Rec as a recreation coordinator 2 position with a range of starting at $39,205. And like I said, the budget for Public Works was $43,000, so there's plenty of funds there, and we'll just transfer them from one department to the other.
Okay. Any discussion on this item, council?
You don't have any money in mind, do you? Any
No.
kind of, no.
Mr. Mayor or council, if you have questions, Mr. Till, our Parks and Rec manager, is also here if you had any questions about the position for him.
All right. Questions, council? No? Okay, it does seem straightforward to me, and I know we're needing a lot of help in Parks and Rec. We are putting on many more events and trails, and all that's a huge priority for this council, so I think we need to have some support to back that up. Yeah.
Motion?
Please.
I move to approve the transfer and reclassification of a vacant full-time administrative assistant position in Public Works to a recreational coordinator 2 in Parks and Recreation.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Wilden made the motion, Councilmember Nairn seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Nairn,
Yes.
Councilmember Weldon,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hulse,
Yes.
Mayor Linsky,
Yes.
and motion carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is ordinance number 694, amending the city's dog park rules and regulations, first reading.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Jack Teal, your Parks and Recreation Manager here with the city. First, I'd like to say thank you for the help. Lots of big plans for that position once we get it into the department. But I'm here tonight to discuss the dog park again. Earlier this year, we had brought to you guys a proposed ordinance that changed some of the rules for the dog park, as well as the process we went through to create those rules. At that meeting in February, you guys had asked us to bring that ordinance back with the exclusion of changing the process. So that's what we're here to do tonight. So I put together just a quick presentation that I'll run through, give you the highlights of some of the things that will change, and then if there's any questions you guys have, just let me know and we'll get those answered for you. So first thing, the reason we're here to change them is these rules were written into code, and this is done so that way we can enforce these rules at the park a little bit easier by having them in the ordinance. But with that, the rules can become inconsistent or outdated, which is the reason we're actually here. One of our dog park rules does not meet the state law that requires it prohibits discrimination based on breed of animal. And one of our dog park rules currently has a currently discriminates against a breed of animal prohibition. There we go. No. So we're here to change that tonight. And what we're asking for you guys is to approve this new rule set into the ordinance so you guys still have the availability to change those rules as a council rather than on the staff level, so we can get those signs updated at the park and start following that rule set. So these are our current dog park rules that we have. This isn't our current sign, but the current rules. So you can see the header has a lot of really big legal language. It's not necessarily a user-friendly sign, and it just has a listing of all of these rules, some of which are outdated as we've discussed. So what we'd like to do is change the sign to look similar to this. So it's a much more condensed version, a little bit prettier, and after this I got 2 slideshows to show you two, one of our current sign, one of the proposed sign. But in here we plan to condense a couple of these rules. So one of them is actually meant to help match current ordinances we have as well. City code allows for you to own 3 animals, but our current dog park only allows you to bring 2 into the facility at a time, which means if you want to bring all 3, one's got to sit out and time out in the car while you take the other ones, and clearly we don't want that. So we've condensed a couple of them, cleaned them up, made them a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit more readable and enjoyable. So that's what we're trying to do through this process. This will condense the header. It clarifies the age requirement that we're going to have at the facility. It's a condensing of the rules. It increases the number of dogs that you're allowed to have within the dog park to match our current ordinance. It aligns with the state law, and it creates that cleaner sign. So this is our current sign that we have at the facility. And this is our proposed sign. So it helps match kind of the brand that the city is going, a little bit more friendly, a little bit more user friendly, readable, and it'll help update some of those rules that are outdated and needing to be brought back time and time. So with that, I would open up for any questions you guys may have. This is the first reading, so we're not asking for a vote tonight, but rather input and questions from council.
All right. Council, input, feedback?
What do you do if you have a problem with any dog, for that matter, a pit bull or a wolf?
So the way that the state now reads those rules, I hope there's not a wolf at the dog park, but the way the state now reads that rule is they use the term aggressive dog behaviors. So at the sign of any aggressive dog behavior, you would call this number that we now have listed on file to report that behavior. That animal should be immediately removed from the park, and whether they do it, obviously you'd like self-compliance there, but if not, then you would have the avenue of calling Parks and Recreation and calling code enforcement to come down and help make sure that that animal is being removed from the facility.
What happens if you have a dog that's got some sort of a history, if you will?
Mr. Mayor, council member. So anytime we have issues, we try to catalog those issues. So if we know if it's a repeat offender or not, to date, I haven't had any of these issues. Usually we get them brought to us after the event has happened. Say, hey, I was at the dog park a few months ago and this happened, and I just want to make sure it doesn't happen again. So we try to catalog all those things. But what we would do is if we notice a repeat offender, we always try to see trends. So if we see somebody trending in the same direction, we try to stop that trend as early as we can in the process. So if I know that an animal has had repeated behaviors, the first time we let the owner know, hey, this was brought to our attention, we need to make sure this does not happen. Here's our rules. Here's the code of conduct you guys use when you agree to use the city facilities. Then I always try to use educate, enforce, elevate, the 3 E's. So we'd educate the person first. Here's what you can and can't do. Then we're going to enforce it or educate them, make sure that they know and understand the rule. Then we enforce the rule. If they aren't following the enforcement, then we would elevate that up to our other channels, whether it be code enforcement, police department, or on and on through our administrative process.
So whose definition of aggressive dog behavior would we be using? Because that can be very subjective. In my experience at my job, it's been very subjective.
Mr. Mayor, council member, we would use the state's termination for aggressive dog behavior, and we don't have it listed on the sign because it is very subjective to people, and the more you put it on subjective, or the more you put it on there, people can argue it back and forth. So in those instances, we would get with our ordinance control and our enforcement officers to go down, and they would be able to deem if it's aggressive dog behavior or not. And if they can't do it, they would call on Cottonwood PD to make that determination.
Thank you.
All right. Vice Mayor, do you have something you wanted to ask?
No. My questions have been answered for the most part, and again, being concerned about the aggressive dogs and the definition of what's aggressive. And when you're at the dog park, some dogs are more sensitive than others. They're not aggressive, they're just defensive. And as you pointed out, that becomes subjective. If your dog is somewhat sensitive and another dog interferes with them, they may respond in a aggressive fashion that normally wouldn't occur. Does that make that dog aggressive, or is that dog just simply protecting itself? And how do we determine that?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, I think those are really good, valid points. We would try to deem it as an event-by-event basis. We try not to go into things with bias, but again, if we can prove a trend that this is now the second or third time this encounter has happened with the same individual and owner, then we would classify that as a trend. If it's a one-time situation where I'm getting called down to assess the event, we're going to treat it event by event and say, hey, what were the leading factors coming into this? How did we get to this point? Where do we need to go from this point? So we would try to evaluate it there at that time and see how we got to that situation, if it was a one-off or if it is a trend in aggressive behavior.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, and I'll add that in the 2.5 years I've been here, all my dog park complaints are humans, not the dogs. The dogs seem to know how to get along a lot better than the humans do. So our animal control officers, when he says code enforcement, just to remind you, that's also our animal control officers, the same there. But they've done a good job between PD and Jack's team and Scott's team. They work for Scott over there. We haven't really had any issues that haven't been able to be resolved. Most of the issues are getting the people to play nice.
Got it. All right. Well, again, I applaud your efforts to clean things up, make the sign a little more user-friendly, clear, and cleaning up those old ordinances. So we'll bring it back for a second reading unless there's anybody here from the public that wants to comment on this. No? All right. We'll bring it back. Thank you, sir.
Fair enough. Thank you.
All right, last then is request to close
Mr.
Main
Mayor?
Street. I am so sorry. Second. I reminded myself to not. That's all right. Sometimes. It's because my other colleagues aren't here to keep, I would normally get a kick under the table from Matthews. He's just not here right now. All right, Deputy Clerk, please read ordinance number 694 by title only.
Ordinance number 694, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, amending the dog park rules and regulations. Mr. Mayor.
All right. Item 5, last item tonight is request to close Main Street and Old Town between Pima Street and Cactus Street, as well as the Gateway parking lot from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. on November 13th, 2021 for the Walking on Main event.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, Council. Jack Teal, your Parks and Recreation Manager. And this time I'd like to talk a little bit about Walking on Main. This is an annual event we put on every year in November. It's usually the second Saturday in November. It's a wine, artist, car show event that we put on here in Old Town Cottonwood. To make this event successful, we take over pretty much all of downtown between Main Street and Cactus Street, to include the Gateway parking lot. So to make it a safe venue for our attendees, vendors, and everybody who wants to come out for it, we're requesting a closure from Main Street, a closure of Main Street from Pima Street to Cactus Street, to also include the Gateway parking lot. This will allow us to set up all the vendor booths, the music, the car show, all those different things that go into putting that event on. We will have a wine garden down there. So earlier tonight, you guys approved a liquor license too. We'll have an area dedicated for the wine garden on the street as well. So tonight, we're really just here to talk about that traffic control plan. With the closure of Main Street, we will be diverting traffic through Cactus Street and First Street. So that would also include some of the parking restrictions on Cactus Street for the day of the event to limit parking to just one side so we can still get public safety apparatus through those side streets as well as up through Verde Heights. It's a routine closure to our staff. We've done this year in and year out for a couple of years, but we always try to bring it back and see if there's questions or concerns or what council would like us to do with this event, and that's what I'm here to do tonight. So if you guys have any questions or anything for me, I'd be happy to answer those questions for you.
All right. Council, questions? No? No? Okay. Yeah, I would say it's routine. You've done it time and time again. I don't think there's ever been any issue in the past, other than what you would expect from bottlenecking all that traffic. But otherwise, it's been smooth, and look forward to the event. Yeah.
Got it?
Okay. You need a motion on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the proposed street closure of North Main Street and Old Town between Pima Street and Cactus Street and the Gateway parking lot from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. on November 13, 2021 for the Walking in Main event.
Second.
All right. Vice Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Wilden seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hulse?
Yes.
Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And motion carried.
All right. Very good. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you.
Thanks. All right. I would move to pay the claims and adjustments.
Second.
All right. Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Naren seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All right. Councilmember Naren made the motion. Wilden seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Let's keep those pin drops.